Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the 2U's podcast. My name's TJ Mastower, and I'm going to welcome in my esteemed friend, Mr. Scott Ewing. Scott, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good now that we got something relevant to talk about besides all this baseball nonsense. Football is back, sir. Football is back.
Football is back, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to talk something near and dear to not only my heart, but Scott's heart as well. We're going to talk our alma mater, dear old state, Penn State football. And Scott, there's a lot of stuff brewing in Happy Valley right now, my friend. Why don't you catch everybody up here?
Well, Penn State's coming off a year when there were a lot of questions surrounding the team. Obviously every year you ask, is this Paterno's last season? He's emphatically said no, and I really doubt that it'll be his last season, barring another accident, which he suffered. But I guess he's recovering from that too. Expectations a little higher this year, a little more familiarity with some of the players, especially at the position we're going to talk about. Let's get into the quarterback position. I think that's the biggest one for this team going into this season. Two guys that are definitely the number 1 and 2 overall, but where do we put these guys on the depth chart?
I'm very strong-willed on this, so I'm kind of glad. Thank you for asking me first, Scott. That's awful polite of you. Again, we're talking quarterbacks. What else is there to talk about when it comes to football? Most talked about position in sports. No different with our alma mater. You got two guys. You got Rob Bolden, and you got Matt McGloin. Matt McGloin, a local kid. I'm up here in Pittston right now, Scott. He's right up the way in good old Scranton, PA, little coal miner. And you got Rob Bolden. Two very different styles. I think that's the thing that stands out, and not only is making this decision tough for me, has to be making this decision tough for Joe. You're not going to say, oh, one is kind of like the other. It's night and it's day. You have one guy in Rob Bolden, all the athleticism that you want out of the position, but yet very raw. And then you have somebody like McGloin where you say, he's not going to wow you with his physical attributes. He's not going to wow you with his arm, but he's going to make plays and he's gritty. And I really think the team responded to him at the end of last year, and that's why Joe stuck with him. But now as we reset this season, I think Penn State really needs to evaluate, long-term, which one of these two guys gives us the best chance to win a Big Ten title, because that's really what you're working towards. And if you got to ask me, I think it's Rob Bolden without a doubt. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Matt McGloin. Matt McGloin is scrappy. He's what I would see myself being a quarterback as. He has that grit. He has those intangibles. They all respond to him. But at the same point, you can't really deny the gifts and upside that comes with Rob Bolden. And at least we all forget, early last year, Rob Bolden, those first couple games, he wowed a lot of people. And then he got hurt. So had he not gotten hurt, he may have still been the guy we would not know what we have in McGloin. Are we better that we do know now? Yeah. I think McGloin is a solid backup. If something does happen, he could step in. If Bolden struggles, he steps in. But it's my belief, Scott, and I don't know what you think, that if you hand the reins over to Bolden and show him some confidence, which is obviously what he's been lacking, asking for a transfer this offseason, if you give him your vote of confidence, I think you're going to see that upside start to come out. And I think pretty quickly. Maybe not at Alabama or the Alabama game, but the early season schedule, there's some games in there where you could really work him in and really gear down for not only a good second half, but a good couple of years here.
I think it's just the opportunity rather than the vote of confidence. I think he's the kind of player that just needs to be, here you go, here's the position. Yeah. It's open for competition, so if you don't, I don't think the pressure is going to overwhelm the kid. He doesn't seem like it's that kind of guy. Back to their style. They are two different, completely, opposite style of quarterbacks. Rob Bolden, freakishly athletic, can make plays with his feet, can make plays with his arm, but he's a spread quarterback. That's been Penn State's MO, in their years that they've been, even in consideration for a Big Ten title or a national championship.
great.
It was that way with Michael Robinson. It was the way one year with Darrell Clark. Now you go back, you look over McGloin, more of a pocket passer, not the most mobile. He doesn't have a cannon, but, he'll make the throws that he needs to. He'll make smarter plays maybe than Bolden. He won't take as many chances. Probably not afraid to throw away the ball. But you need more of you need something more than that, especially with the way Penn State's offense has been, installed the past couple of years. They've been traditionally a spread team in the past decade, and when it hasn't worked, you've had a guy named Anthony Morelli, who the fans, they call for his head. Now, I'm not saying McGloin is Morelli or Morelli is McGloin, but that's the kind of style it is. They're two different guys, but they play the same style, and that's why I think, especially the fans, want to see what a guy can do to make plays, and maybe that's the way the college game is going this year. You just look at the SEC, that's traditionally what wins. Andrew Luck is the next prospect, and he's not a spread-type quarterback, but there's not too many of him out there, and there's not too many teams that are successful with, stand in the pocket, drop-back quarterbacks.
Yeah, it really is a shame, too, because a leader and a player gritty like McGloin that does it he's obviously more pro style. That we both agree. It's kind of a shame that that's not lauded in college football right now, and you just alluded to it. Few and far between are the Andrew Lucks or the Sam Bradfords, the sit-in-the-pocket passers. They're the really great ones. Outside of that, you need to have that athleticism to make up for that. And obviously, Bolden's the one that gives you that here, so that's why we both think he should be the choice. But it's not a knock on McGloin. I think you would agree with that too, right? I think McGloin could be good. Do you?
No, I think he can be good. That's the thing. I think he can be better than Morelli, and Morelli had the total control of the team, total vote of confidence from Joe Paterno and the rest of the coaching staff. I'm going to bring up a comparison that's going to make your skin crawl for just a second. This goes back to about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm a 49ers fan, and watching the team with Sean Hill and Alex Smith as a quarterback, this is the exact same situation. Alex Smith maybe not the physical attributes that a guy like Bolden has, but Sean Hill and McGloin are essentially the same guy. You love them for their grit. You love them for their smart play. Neither of them had an arm that would even say, it's not even good. But they were low touchdown, low interception, smart plays, throw the ball away if you don't have it, make a gritty play every once in a while, but nothing flashy, nothing exciting. That's what they gave you. And then Alex Smith, higher touchdowns at least, high interceptions.
Right.
Upside too. That's what more upside, more flash. I think that's what especially college fans want to see. That is a flash of potential, and that's what could potentially be good for a team that's looking for a Big Ten title or to get back in the national championship picture.
Yeah, no doubt. And it really does come back to upside here. Again, no slight on McGloin, but you just mentioned it with your 49er Homer reference right there. It's it's either you take the devil you know or the devil you don't. And right now, the mode in college football is to take that upside, to put the guy in there and let him see what you can do. And I think it all goes back, as you would agree here in a couple minutes, to Joe Paterno. And what kind of decision is Joe willing to make? And I think it's been pretty interesting how his philosophy has evolved here in his later years, bringing in people like inserting them in a quarterback like Michael Robinson, which was obviously a great success. Darrell Clark, which is obviously a great success. Those spread HD quarterbacks, that's been his MO lately. And I think that's the other thing that has me saying it's going to be Bolden when Alabama rolls into town here. He's been willing to bring in athletes in general, and put them into key positions early. And right now, Rob Bolden definitely fits that mold. And I guess the good thing is you always have a good insurance policy. With McGloin, like with Sean Hill, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a sturdy passer, a sturdy pocket passer. Which, you know what? You would agree with me, Scott, that's not a bad thing to have on your team.
It's not a bad thing, but it's not going to get you over the top. I think we can both
right
agree
now
with
in college,
that.
No.
And I think that another thing that we've overlooked with this quarterback thing, and we'll get back in Turno in a second, is that Bolden is, I believe, a sophomore. his eligibility level is. He's only, this is his second year of eligibility. So he'll essentially have another one where he has to be here and another one where he could be after if he doesn't decide to go pro.
Right.
So I think that's something that stands out as opposed to McGloin, who, is a junior of eligibility coming in this year. That's something you may want to look at. If you have potential and we're looking at the upside, why not give this guy another year, improve the weapons around him, let these younger guys take a year, take a step up. I know you'll lose a couple seniors, but at the same time, give this guy another year, take Alabama off that schedule, maybe hope that the rest of the Big Ten doesn't recruit well and, have a better recruiting year. I think Penn State next year's recruiting class is pretty good. If I remember from a year or two ago, they were talking about being one of the better classes. So
right.
Throw this guy in, let him see what he's got. And I think Paterno, owes it to see what kind of talent this guy might have.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing everybody wants to see. I mean, either way, it's going to leave a bad taste in somebody's mouth, and that's just the unfortunate nature of the position they're in. Somebody's not going to be happy by the decision that's made or is ultimately made for them, which I think is why this Saturday with Indiana State coming to town, the Sycamores, we got a bunch of trees running around. Is going to be so important because they're both going to play. But so maybe it'll work itself out. Who knows? But I think that athleticism is what's going to obviously end up putting Bolden over the top.
I was going to say, you're going to see both guys this week. And don't let, if Bolden comes out and doesn't, completes around 50%, one touchdown, doesn't rack up the yards, and then McGloin comes in, sits in the pocket, and absolutely dazzles. That doesn't mean if he's named to start against Alabama that he's the better choice. I don't think he's the better choice.
They got to ride the hot hand.
They should, and it's too early to tell. There's not a solid number one starter. He's not instilled in that. And just that's going to be the question, is that you can't run the spread offense and be successful with McGloin. Should he emerge as the hot hand quarterback, as the guy who's playing well? Now, in the spread system, I don't know how, it's a long shot for him to emerge as the favorite, but there's always that chance. Again, he makes smarter plays. He's a little bit better with the football. Not going to give you as much, but, could protect the lead, could keep you in a game if it's close, let the other guys do their thing. Is this coaching staff, we wrote an article on this, you wrote an article on this back our senior year, that we were so mad when Penn State's, we realized that their coaching system is so plugged in, so etched in stone that it's just ridiculous. Can this team change?
I mean, Joe, like I said, Joe's shown a willingness over the last couple of years to evolve, but I mean, ultimately, he's gonna go back to his roots, which has won him a lot of football games, and that's fine. I don't think there's too much change that needs to happen, but I think it will all play, and ultimately does, to the talent around the quarterback too. So whichever one of these guys is in there, the style of play that's going to be successful is going to be dictated by the talent that you have, If he has the weapons to run the spread, then that's what you'd probably want to go with. If you have, a classic pounded out Penn State offensive line, maybe you want to go more traditional. So I think they do, while they get a little stale sometimes, and I know that was the basis of my article, I think they're shown a willingness to adapt, which is good in a way. So I think it all depends on what kind of talent Joe sees around these quarterbacks, and ultimately maybe that ends up making the decision for them. If the line is really good and you're getting a push, maybe you just want to be a running football team, and then maybe McGloin's your guy.
I'll throw a quick question at you here real quick. November 12th, Nebraska comes into town, University Park. My question real quick is, will Penn State be undefeated in the Big Ten standings going into that game?
No. I don't think so.
In the Big Ten
I'm looking
standings.
at that Iowa game.
Oh, pitfall. It always
pitfall
is.
Game. As you and I have seen firsthand, Iowa in-state college is just not ideal. So if they could get past Iowa, then yes, I think they can be.
I don't think they run the gauntlet at the end. Nebraska, Wisconsin, Ohio State, their last three. It's
Brutal.
not going to happen. They're going to at least finish with 2 or 3 losses.
Yeah.
In
but
conference.
overall, I think it could be a pretty good season for them, and it'll all start with the quarterback, as it always does.
Well, we're hoping 8-4 or something similar. That's Penn State 2011. We're looking forward to it. I know we're going to try and get to a couple games, hopefully. TJ?
See you there, Scott.
All right, buddy.